and welcome to the live class. Today we're going to talk about hypotheticals. So, welcome everyone. I hope you're having a good Saturday so far. And I'm back after my break. I took a trip to the US this past week. Mostly to see family. I saw family on both sides, on my mother's side and my father's side. So that was really good because I had to catch up with everyone. Hello everyone who's joining. I know especially now that I have some aging family members, it's especially important to take the opportunity to visit them. I have my aunt who was recovering from cancer, and I saw her, which was really nice because she seems like she's doing pretty well. My other aunt also has been sick, so it was good to see her. And then my grandfather as well. He's 95. So it was kind of an emotionally heavy trip, but I also was able to see a lot of my family members. So I feel really grateful for that. How's everyone doing today? How are you guys? I hope you're having a good week so far. I know that we have a lot going on in the world. A lot of my followers are from Iran, and I know that there's a lot happening right now, so I hope you guys are all safe and doing well. And then, of course, if you're living in the United States, I wish you the best with what's going on now, too. So hopefully this English class can help us be in a positive space and better ourselves and focus on ourselves and not some of those things that are going on in the world. Yeah, I have good genes. I hope that I hope that it's genetic to live to. Although, do you guys want to live to 95? I feel like it might be. I don't know if that's too long. Hello from Afghanistan. Hello from Brazil. Hi, welcome to the class today. I hope you guys are doing well. Remembering words easily. I would say my main trick with remembering words is you remember things a lot better when you relate them to something else that you know. So if you give the word a meaning or connect the root word to something else, then you're a lot more likely to remember the word. So I have given this example a lot of times before, but for example, the word dunk, like Dunkin' Donuts, a lot of people don't know, but to dunk your donut is to dip it into coffee or tea. So that is to dunk something. And if you already know the popular donut chain, Dunkin' Donuts, then to learn this meaning of the word, it will make a lot of sense to you, and you'll probably remember it right away, compared to a word that you have absolutely no relationship with. So I've made before vocab charts. My main recommendation is don't write down a word and the translation. Write down a word that you learn, the context that you learn it in, the definition of what it means in your native language, and connections. Your connections to the word might make sense to you, but not to other people. So memory is really tricky in that it's a very useful tool for learning a language. You can either make an emotional connection to a word or relate it to a word in your language or something that you already know. For example, when I took one class in Arabic and we learned the word bab, which is like B-A-B be. And I decided that this word means door. And in my mind, I decided that this word looks like a door. So that's how I remembered that word. It can be something visual. It can be related to also if you look up a song or lyrics with the word that you're trying to learn. That's another really good way. I associate the pronunciation of words with images. For example, battery is bat and then a tree, battery. Okay, that's a good tip. So I recommend get creative in your notes. Don't just write like a word and a definition. Actually put emojis in there, connect it to songs. We're going to remember things better when they're more interesting to our minds. We see things all the time, so your brain has to think that it's particularly useful or interesting what you learn. If I say dunking my biscuits, yeah, exactly. You're dunking your biscuits in your coffee. That would sound pretty British because they say biscuits. In the US we say cookies. Okay, so I had the idea today that I could ask you guys some hypothetical questions and we could practice using hypotheticals. There are two things that I often need to correct. I'm from Bangladesh. Pray for me, and also Palestine. Yes, I am holding you here. Could you please tell me how you pronounce afterwards? Afterwards. Afterwards. I pronounce it similar, like the word, like in the dictionary, you can read words. I pronounce that afterwards the same as I would after and then words. After the words, there's a period. Afterwards. So the two most important things that I notice when people are using the hypotheticals that they should keep in mind is first, when it's an unreal situation, like the circumstance is not real, you need to use would and not will. That's something I correct people on a lot. So for example, if I had $1 million, I would buy a house. We are going to use would and not will when it's based on an unreal situation. So that's something that I often correct people on. So be aware. Also, don't pronounce the L in that word. So say would, similar to the tree has wood, or good job would. Sometimes people go wool to do a mix of would and will, and no, just say would. Don't pronounce the L. The second thing that people often kind of mix up with the second conditional or hypotheticals is that they don't put the verb into the past. When we have if, the verb that goes with if needs to be in the past. This is like to create a distance with the present reality. So we don't say, if I have $1 million. No, if I had. So think of the past like you're representing something that's not real by talking in the past in the present. So we're going to practice this, but those are just the two things I want you to be aware of when I ask you hypothetical questions. So the first hypothetical question that I have is, if you were invisible for a day, what would you do? And I'm going to write this in the chat. If you were invisible for a day, what would you do? So, if you were invisible for a day, what would you do? Would you do something mischievous? Mischief is like to do some trouble, like to prank someone or play a joke on someone. That would be mischief. If you were invisible for a day, what would you do? If I were invisible for a day, I would rob a bank. Remember, rob will just be the simple verb because after would, we'll have just the simple verb. That's interesting. Why would you rob a bank? Well, I think I know why. Probably to get some money, but what if you were caught? What would you say if you were caught robbing a bank? If I were invisible for a day, I maybe would like to overhear what people are talking about me. I think so too, but I feel like that's something that I would want to do. And then after hearing what they said, I would change my mind. Yeah, that's a good one. So we use this word over here, what people are saying, and there's also another word, to eavesdrop. To eavesdrop means to listen in or overhear someone's conversation. Are you eavesdropping on us? Sometimes it makes me give a thumbs up. If I were invisible, I would visit great monuments without having to pay. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. Like, I would go to Machu Picchu, Torres del Paine. All of these ones, or maybe like the museums where you have to pay a lot of money to go in. That could be a good use of your day. I would play a prank on my friends. What would you do? What kind of prank? If I were invisible, I would do a mischief. Mischief is not countable. So instead of a mischief, I would say I would do mischief. Non-countable. I would take a plane to fly the continent. Do you mean like fly around the continent? Like to different countries, all in the Americas, for example. If I were invisible for a day, I would like to visit the White House. Ooh, yeah. I've gone into the White House before because I'm from Washington, D.C., and I think in like 5th grade, my class took a tour of the White House, but I know there are some rooms that we didn't go in. So I'd like to see the other rooms. If I got caught while robbing a bank, I would play the crazy card. That's a good strategy. Yeah, I always accidentally trigger some filters or something while I'm live. I was thinking of Versailles Castle and the Louvre. Ooh, yeah. I would be right close to the Mona Lisa like this. If I were invisible for a day, I would see him. Ooh, who's him? Oh no, I would like to see girls taking a shower. I don't like that. If I were invisible for a day, I would enter the mind of various presidents of different countries. Ooh. Do you think you could like be invisible, shrink yourself down and then go into their minds? I'm scared to read this one out loud. If I were invisible, I would kill Netanyahu. Hopefully there's no FBI agent watching this live. If you're here, hello. Or like IDF agent. I would do mischief. Yes, exactly. Nice. Okay. I have another question. Okay, this is a very weird question, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. I asked this question to my husband yesterday. So, if you had one chance to show aliens um, to show aliens something to make them. Okay, I'm thinking of the situation of like aliens come to the Earth and they're going to annihilate all of us, like kill all of us. You have one opportunity to show them a song to make them change their minds. What song would you choose to make aliens spare humanity? Like, what song would you show to aliens to prove to them that humans deserve to live? I'm gonna pin this. So, okay, we're on the Earth. A bunch of aliens come, and they're like, we're gonna kill you all, like humans don't deserve to live. And you have only Spotify. And you're like, wait, I need to show you. Humans do deserve to live. Let me give you evidence that you should spare all of our lives. What song would you show to the aliens? If I were invisible, I would like to get into the Coca-Cola lab to discover the secret formula. Okay, that's a good one too. So we have We Will Rock You, Mama by Freddie Mercury, Imagine by John Lennon, Alien Exists by Blink-182, Friday's I'm in Love, The Cure, Here Comes the Sun, do you support Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi? I don't know. They both seem like good guys. I don't have a strong opinion about that. Michael Jackson, Save the World. I don't know the name of the song, but no, it's not. I was thinking of like We Are the World. No, it's a different song. If aliens were going to kill humans, I would play the most sorrowful classic piece that makes them cry and peacefully. It would be You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift. Thunder by Imagine Dragons. I Got a Feeling. Ooh, I feel like if you played Ooga Chaka, they would start dancing their alien dance. Armageddon. Imagine. I would blackmail emotionally and say, hey, the world exists for us, with us. Die with a Smile. Okay, these are good ones. There's a lot of representation of Queen and the Beatles in these suggestions. I could also see Michael Jackson or some of these songs. Health the World. Knock, knock, knock on heaven's door. Okay. Perfect. All right. I just thought that was kind of a funny question. I'm going to ask you guys another one. All right. If you had the power to change one law, what law would you change and why? So I'm going to write that here. Hi, how are you doing? We're talking about hypothetical questions. So, if you had the power to change one law, what law would you change and why? Ooh, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That would be a good one. Like, There was like a Hawaiian guy who played that. He's since passed away, but he had a ukulele and he would play Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It was like a very beautiful version of that song. No more countries. Okay, heal the world. That makes sense. I was thinking health the world doesn't make sense to me, but I wasn't sure. So if you had the power to change one law, what law would you change and why? Try to respond in a complete sentence, because when you only respond just with your answer, you're not practicing the surrounding words of how to structure a sentence. And that's the part that we need to practice more. That when we talk about, oh, why is it easier to listen versus to speak? This is part of the reason, because we can understand. I'm doing the work of making the structure and telling you guys, and you guys are responding with just your answer, which is fine. But then when you get to a conversation and it's your turn to create an entire sentence yourself, then you might think, oh, I don't remember how to structure this sentence. So that's one way that we can get better from just listening to speaking. Practice all the words, the structure, instead of responding with just one word. I would abolish the legality of corporate lobbying. That's a very good answer. I would change the age to vote. If you can read, you can vote, including children. That's true. Okay, I'm kind of on board with that, but also I would be worried about the people that have like 20 kids and they would all tell their kids like, go vote for this person. It might be like a disparity. We would also need to like tell the kids what they're voting for. Yes, this question does need a lot of contemplation, so take your time. Humans cannot eat animals because we can live happy ever after. So yeah, I would make it illegal to eat animals, or I would make the world a better place. I would make the same language everywhere. I would stop any war to kill civilians. That's a good one too. What kind of law in which countries? It could be anyone. It could be like an international law or from your country. So it's not a specific question. It's just whatever comes to mind. If I had the chance to change a law, it would be euthanasia, because in my opinion, everyone deserves the right to die with dignity. I saw there was a movie, like a Spanish movie about that. And I agree. I just think that it's hard to be like the state deciding if you should die or not. I feel like that's a complicated thing when the person does not want to live. If I had a chance to change one law, I would try to change or delete the Murphy's Law. It's horrible, Murphy, wherever you were. That's true. Maybe a purge day. It might sound a bit serious, but I'd skip UN rules about veto power. I think that I also agree. I feel like the fact that some countries have more say in what can happen with international law, even outside of their own country. I totally agree with you. You're taking your dog to physiotherapy on Saturday mornings. That's a very good reason to be late, I think. I'm sure your dog is grateful for you to do that. We're talking about hypothetical questions today. I'd abolish the law of gravity so we could fly. Okay, that's a good one. So that's like not a political law, but like a scientific law or a law of physics, I would say. I would make it easier for people to buy more sustainable products in order to reduce plastic waste. Nice. That's a good one. I feel that also, like getting back from the US, I feel like there's so much consumption and plastic waste. So I would implement that law first in the US. Seriously talking, I would require a license to have kids. Honestly, that's a compelling law. I would like to change the democratic role. If I had the power to change one law, I would make this world with just one country, so we don't need a passport. We just have one leader, so we don't fight any time. But the leader is not a dictator. Yeah, okay, I totally agree. Like, abolish borders, abolish immigration regulation, everything. But having one leader, it would be hard for that person to not be a dictator, in my opinion. We would need some sort of like, maybe an ant hive mind. Like if we all used artificial intelligence in a way that was like, I don't know, like a very democratic, all of us could make decisions together as a hive mind instead of relying on an electoral system or like a single party to vote or something. That would be interesting. Obviously I did not study political science, but that for me sounds like it could be a good solution. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question. If you could make any type of movie, what would it be about? So this is our next question. If you could make any type of movie, what would it be about? Also, I definitely would make the labor conditions better for people who produce our clothes. Yeah, that would be another good one. Like, we call it sweatshops when there are a bunch of people in a room with a sewing machine, mass producing clothes. Sometimes they have to work like 18-hour days or something like that. I'll write that here. That is called a sweatshop. So I would change the conditions of people who make our clothes, or also I would change the conditions of sweatshops. And hello, if you're joining the class, we are practicing hypothetical questions. So I asked this question, if you could make any type of movie, what would it be about? I'm thinking of what mine would be about. Yeah, tell us the genre. Would you make like a sequel to Peaky Blinders, or just a very similar movie, or like a ripoff Peaky Blinders? I would like to make a movie based on real events. That would be cool. That's a good option. I would, remember, because this is a hypothetical situation, I would make a movie about the soul and angels. Okay, that's interesting. If I had no answer to these, no idea how to answer the questions, you could say, I've never thought about that before. I'll write some options here. If you don't know how to answer a question, you can say, I've never thought about that before. You can say, for example, good question. I'm not sure. Or, I'd need to think about that. I'd need to think about that. You could also say something like, I have no idea or I have no clue, but these are other answers. Like if you're in a job interview and they ask you something and you don't want to say, I have no idea, you could say, oh, I haven't thought of that before. Let me get back to you. I'd have to think about it. So that's like another way to say that. If I had the opportunity, I would like to make a documentary about the marvels of the creation, animals, and so on. Nice. I like that. Remember, documentary is a movie about real life. Yeah, you corrected yourself. Anyways, if I could make any type of movie, I would make one about improving our world, being kind with each other. Nice. I like that. It would be about people's minds and feelings to learn more about each other. You guys have a very introspective taste in movies. I'd ask Woody Allen for helado. What? It would be about taking, after the word about, use the ing verb after prepositions. It would be about taking care of our children and the world. I'd make a fantascientific, like sci-fi kind of fantascientific, that follows the usual path in which the warrior saves the girl. If I could make a movie, it would be about dogs, something like Hachi the dog. In this movie, the dog waits every day at a train station for his master, even after his master passes away. Oh my god, that type of movie would make me cry, maybe even more than a human waiting for another human. Oh my gosh, Roxana, that's so funny. I was like, you would ask Woody Allen for helado in the movie for help. I was like, that's a very creative movie idea that you would ask Woody Allen for ice cream in the movie. If I had this opportunity, I would make a movie like War Fighting or Sigma type. Okay. I would like to make a movie based on the dystopian book I Who Never Known Men, because it's so visually written, but I would make it more satisfying in the end. Okay, so you would take the creative liberty to give it a better ending. I like that. If I could make any kind of movie, I would make a Spider-Man movie with me as Spider-Man. Okay. We often say this, like, I would star in my own movie. I would star in my own movie. Is a good one too. I would star in my own movie. My comment failed to post. Okay, well, I wrote I would star in my own movie. Someone asked about indirect speech, and I just posted a podcast episode about indirect speech and how to use it in a practical way in daily life. So if you have more questions, I recommend checking it out on my Spotify or YouTube. But to give a quick answer, it's very common to use, for example, if you lie to me and then I find out that you're lying, I could say, I thought that you said that you spoke French, but it turns out you can't. I thought you said you would help me. So whenever you're referring to a previous thing someone said, we're going to use indirect speech. Also in the news, we use indirect speech a lot. So the police reported that the subject had fled the scene and that sort of thing. So if you want to practice indirect speech, it's common in dialogues between people recalling what they said in the past, and also in the news. So those are like the most practical situations in which you could use indirect speech. I would make a movie showing how a traditional society with clear roles and good values. Okay, interesting. All right. I did not see the Three Stooges. All right, we're going to continue. So one thing is, when we're practicing these sort of hypothetical questions, it's important to not only practice like I would, because there are other structures where you need to use hypotheticals. For example, if I ask you instead about the condition, so if I say, in what situation would you eat a spider? Yeah, and I have a podcast in my bio. It's called Charm English Pod. If you go to my bio, I have the video format on YouTube and I have the audio format on Spotify. So this is the question. I asked this like a year ago and I thought it was hilarious, people's responses. In what situation would you eat a spider? And in the reason that I'm asking this is because to respond, you need to use the past tense to give me an invented condition. So if I were super hungry, I would eat a spider. If I were, if I had, if I didn't, if I knew, if I went. You need to say if I and then a verb in the past to tell me about an unreal situation that's so extreme that it would lead you to eat a spider. I thought we were eating every night when we're sleeping. That's true. I'm talking about, would you consciously, while you're awake, eat a spider? Yeah. So maybe if I were sleeping, I would eat a spider. In no situation I'd eat a spider. But Roxana, what if I offered you $1 million to eat a spider? Would you eat a spider if I offered you $1 million? What if Woody Allen offered you $1 million? If I was crazy, I would eat a spider. And you could say, really the most correct would be, if I were crazy, I would eat a spider. But informally, people also say, if I was crazy, I would eat a spider. If I had no food, I would eat a spider. I would never, ever eat a crawling creature ever. Oh, wait. Even if I were extremely hungry. If the spider was delicious and crispy. I'm with you, Sasa. If I were dying of hunger, I would dare to eat a spider. If a very violent war happened and there was nothing to eat anymore, I think I would finally accept to eat a spider. If I was lost in the forest many days and I couldn't have any other kind of food, I'd consider your offer. I would eat a spider if it gave me superpowers. Okay, that's a good answer. Maybe in a fancy dinner, like 5 stars restaurant, I would eat it just to try it. Yeah, like if Chef Ramsay made the spider, I would eat it. If I were starving, I would eat a spider, and I'm not starving. Exactly. So this is the perfect type of situation where we would use this. Like, imagine if you're talking to a friend and your friend is like, ooh, I think that you want to go on a date with Sarah. And you're like, I wouldn't go on a date with Sarah in a million years. Not even if she were the last woman in the world. Like, that's the kind of situation where you would use this. Like, giving a fake scenario where even in this scenario, I would or wouldn't do this. If some serial killer asked me to do it to save the entire world, I would. Okay. If it were made of chocolate. Yes, exactly. technically, the when you're using a hypothetical, you should use were, but nowadays the dictionary says in informal situations you can also use was. But like the more correct one is to use were. I were, if he were, etc. If I had my daughters in danger, I would eat a spider without thinking about it. Okay, that's a good example. If I if I were hallucinating and thought the spider was a yummy octopus, okay, I would only eat a spider if I had a gun pointed to my head and that was the way to save my life. Oh my goodness. Have you ever eaten anything exotic like a spider frog or anything like that? I tried snails and they tasted like rubber. Oh my goodness. I've had alligator when I went to, not this past time, but I've been to Louisiana and they cook alligator nuggets. And it was fine. It was fried, so it kind of tasted like weird stringy chicken. Slightly fishy, but not super flavorful. Yeah, I don't think I would do it again, but it was fine. Like I was able to chew and swallow. I wasn't super harmed by it. If someone paid me $1 million, if that gave me Superman's powers. Okay. All right, I have another question. An alligator is similar to a crocodile. But crocodiles live in Australia and alligators live in Louisiana and Florida. So it's kind of a similar family to a crocodile, an alligator. All right, in what situation? I would eat them if I were a bird, exactly. And it was white meat that I ate, yeah. In what situation would you move to another country for good? And this is a good expression. When you do something for good, this is not a literal expression. When you do something for good, you're doing it like forever. So if I say he's gone for good, that means he's gone forever. He's not coming back. If I move to another country for good, I moved to another country forever. I'm not coming back. It does not literally relate to the word good. So it doesn't mean for good. It has a different meaning. It means like forever. He's gone for good, for example. If my country were in war, I would move to another place. Exactly. I would move, and we could say I would move for good, I would leave for good, I would be gone for good, etc. In what situation would you move to another country for good? And for good is like forever. Hello, if you're joining, we are answering hypothetical questions. I have one pinned here. So the question is, in what situation would you move to another country for good? Yeah, this one's interesting. It's very different from the literal word good. So I felt the need to explain. It just means forever, basically. If I were, you could say was, but I'm going to say that the most correct is were. If I were proposed the job of my dreams, I would move to another country with few regrets. Nice. That's a good reason. Your own career growth, I guess. So, in what situation would you move to another country for good? My sweater looks like a school uniform. That's true. I got it from a thrift store, so maybe it was like a child's school uniform. This pattern, this pattern is called Argyle. Argyle is this like the triangles with the X's. This is called Argyle. It's a very common pattern on sweaters and on socks. If there were a military coup in my country, I would find the way to leave for good. Nice. If I was not happy in my own country, I would move to another country for good. Perfect. If I had my family out of my country, I would move to the same country they went. You could say that they went to or that they were in for good. So I would add a preposition there. The same country that they went to or that they were in. I would move for good to Africa to see wild animals every day. Me voy a mi clase de tela. Oh my goodness. Buena suerte. Good luck. So, in what situation would you move to another country for good? You guys all have good examples. If I were moved to another country for in that case, I would say I would move to another country to have better healthcare conditions. I live in Argentina and want to move to Brazil for the economic situation here. I think that that's like the most common, one of the most common reasons that people move is the economic situations. I would move to another country for good if I were threatened of war, like so many people. That's true. We have International Refugee Day coming up. If anyone, I think it's the 17th or something. All right. If I, instead of if I'm dangerous, I would say if I were in danger. So I'm dangerous means that you are the dangerous person. Like you attack people if I'm dangerous. But if you're like facing danger, other people are dangerous and it's threatening your life, I would say if I were in danger. I would move to another country for good, looking for $1 million US. All right, bye, Fabio. Okay, I'm going to give another question. If I get the minimum wage below standard, so remember, because we're talking about like fake situations, I mean, maybe these are not even fake situations, but for our purposes, if you're talking about the situation and it's not your reality, I would say if I got the minimum wage below, if the minimum wage were below standard while the price of the food, house, and other things were so high, I would move to another country. If my rights were at risk. That's a good one too. Or if I would move to another country for good opportunities. Nice. Okay, I have another one for you guys. This one is a little lighter, so a little less heavy. Under what circumstance would you go on a reality TV show? So I'm going to write it here. Under what circumstance would you go on a reality TV show? If I had to pay more taxes, I would move to another continent or country. I'm Angolan, living in Brazil for 5 years. I left my country because I wanted to get better education and professional opportunities, so for better life conditions, I'd move to another country for good. Very well explained, Nicholas. That was a very well written response. Okay. This one is a little bit kind of sillier maybe, but under what circumstance would you go on a reality TV show? If I met, remember, with if. This is the biggest correction that I'm making today with you guys. When it's not a real situation, we need to use the past verb. If I met. If I met my future wife, I would move to another country. So here, under what circumstance would you go on a reality show? I'm thinking, I just watched Survivor. I don't think under any circumstance I would go on the show Survivor. But maybe like, I don't know, Wheel of Fortune, like the ones where you spin a wheel. I would go on one of those shows. I don't think you have anything to lose, maybe. Or I don't think I would go on a dating show, like under any circumstance, because I don't know. I don't think I have the personality for that. If I won, remember, not if I would. If and would go in different parts of the sentence. So I would go on a reality show if I won a lot of money. So if I won. In any circumstance, okay, so Sasa, I would say, in no circumstance would I go on a reality. In no circumstance would I go on a reality. If I got paid well, if I were reborn and in this life I wanted to be an actress. I like that. So you're like, as myself now, I would never go on a reality show, but if I were reborn, I would go on a reality show. If I had no money, I would go on a reality show. Yeah, that's reminding me of like Squid Games or something. I don't know if that, I guess it's kind of like a reality show, but underground reality show. If the program offered $1 million, I would go. Okay, that's a good answer. Yeah, I would, even if it were completely acting, I feel like the public forms very strong opinions about you, so it would be difficult to be so public and not be your real self. I feel like that would be hard. If I were obliged to save my family, I would go on a reality show. It's funny to think of these situations like, you have to eat this spider and then go on a reality show. Like, what kind of threats? Maybe aliens, like the example from before, the aliens would make you do it. I'd go on a reality about remodeling a house. Okay, yeah, like the people, there's one called House Hunters, where the people look for a house. That would be interesting. That one's kind of funny because they're like, what's your job? Oh, I'm like a finger painting artist. Or like, they have these jobs that sound really fun, and then they're like, what's your budget for the house? $5 million. You're like, what? How is that your budget for the house? I don't know if those are real, but if I wanted, remember, past, if I wanted to become a famous person, if there weren't any other way to earn money and my life depended on it, so I would also put depend in the past too, because it's connecting to this unreal condition. If there weren't any other way to earn money and my life depended on it, perhaps I would go to a reality show. I don't think I would ever accept going. So with accept, we use the gerund. I don't think I would ever accept going on a reality show, even if I were offered a lot of money. I won't go to a reality show, even if they offered me much money. I'm an introvert. Okay, yeah, That would be very overwhelming if you're an introvert to be on a reality TV show. Okay, as a final task, I want all of you, if I could save my mother's life, I would attend a reality show. Nice. That's a good reason. I would say the same, probably. If they promised unlimited pizza and zero judgment. That's a good answer. So now, ask me a hypothetical question. So this is our final task. I want you to ask me a hypothetical question. Use would. It can be either of the structures that we saw today. The one where you say, what would you do if you were invisible for a day? Or you can use the other structure, in what situation would you go on a reality show? So those are different ways for you to use the second conditional to ask someone using the hypothetical. Would you like to visit any student in this classroom? I don't know. I feel like whenever people mention their countries and they say, oh, I'm from Brazil, I'm from Germany, I'm from here. Yeah, I would like to visit, I don't know. It's hard to say because it's very like, you guys are watching me and I'm not talking like so directly with you, but in theory, yeah. I would go if by the time they asked me, I felt like it. Okay, nice. What would you do if you had to decide to become an animal for the rest of your life? Ooh, I would probably try to be a cat because I think that they have a level of freedom where they can kind of explore, and they also get love from a family. I think sometimes I see people who have dogs and they don't really let their dogs like go outside and be free. So I don't know if I would. I know people love dogs, but I feel like sometimes people keep dogs locked up more than cats. If I were a street dog, maybe that would be different. If you could swap lives with any cartoon character for a day, who would it be and how would you survive their chaos? Okay, that's a really good question. I would be SpongeBob because I would love to live under the sea and work at the Krusty Krab. In which period of history would you like to live? I think I would like to live, I don't know. I would like to see the hunter-gatherer time of society, but I don't know what it was like for women, so I would be scared to say that I would live that. Yeah, maybe depends on the part of the world. I would live like pre-colonization in a tribe in North America where they were less patriarchal, maybe? That would be interesting, just to experience it. If you were a superhero, what power would you like to have? Ooh. I would like to have the power... I think teleportation, because my family lives so far. That would be my preferred power. What would you be if you weren't a teacher? I might be a geographer because that's what I studied in my undergraduate degree. So perhaps I would be a geographer if I decided to work in what I initially studied. If you were a superhuman, what would you just stop any war on this lovely earth? I think so, definitely. I would definitely stop some of the wars that have been going on. What would you do if you woke up one morning and everyone could hear your thoughts out loud? I would probably try to meditate and let my mind go blank and not think so that people didn't know. Or I would try to think like a story or read out loud so that I could control what people were hearing me think. If you weren't an English teacher, what would you do instead? Yeah, I would say, I don't know though. I like being a teacher, so maybe working as a teacher in a different capacity. You guys have a lot of questions. I'm trying to catch up. What would you do if you got the jackpot? Probably buy property while I still can. In which situation would you be upset with a pupil's attitude? I think if someone, that's a good question. I think if someone treated me disrespectfully, which has happened before. I had a student who insulted me, and that in that case I was very upset because I'm a sensitive person, and also it made me very angry. I would say that was He asked me a question about the translation of a word, and I told him, well, I was thinking about it because, some words don't translate so well. So I was kind of trying to think about it. And he was like, you should improve your vocabulary. Like, you don't have a good enough vocabulary to be a teacher. And I was very annoyed at that comment. What would you do if you woke up and... what would you do if your favorite celebrity was your twin? I would feel jealous, probably. No, I'm just kidding. I would enjoy spending time with them, but I would also hope that the paparazzi didn't stalk me thinking I were them. What would you do if you woke up and it turned out you were a mouse? I would take one bite of all the cheeses in the supermarket. What would you buy at first if you won $1 million? I know, this is like rapid fire questions. What would I buy first if I had $1 million? Well, yeah, I would buy property probably because I don't know, but maybe something else. I've been wanting, so there are a few things that I've been wanting, like maybe better equipment, like audio equipment, or a better computer, a car. Yeah, I think things that I would use in my everyday life that would make it easier, probably, like a computer, a car. Although I don't drive much where I live. Well, I don't drive at all because I don't have a car. But I don't really I kind of like not being heavily reliant on a car where I live. Like in the US, it's a very car-based society, but in Chile, you don't really need a car. But I have thought that I would like to do like a road trip or something like that, so it would be nice to have a car. If you could change one point in your life, only one thing or situation, what would it be? That's a hard one. Yeah, do any of you guys have an answer to that? This is a good question. If you could change one point in your life. It's hard because the times in my life that were the most difficult or that I feel the worst about also probably taught me the most. So that's kind of it. I would say, because like, for example, maybe when I was, I don't know, maybe when I was like in middle school and high school, I feel like I felt a lot of like pressure and like, I don't know, with friends, and like if someone bullies you, it feels really intense and you feel like you're the worst person ever. I think maybe if I could make my childhood self see that nothing matters when you're in high school or in middle school. But I also think because of moments like that, they kind of make you they build character. So I don't know if I could think of. Yeah. I don't know what you guys would say. Maybe I'll copy one of you. I want to be a panda. Okay. Yeah. I would say maybe like, yeah, there were times in my life where I feel like I could have had more boundaries with people. And I probably, if I could go back and change that, I would. If you were the president of your country, what would be your first task to do? I would have a lot on my plate if I took over. I mean, if my country is the US, I would stop what's happening with ICE. I would stop the war in Gaza, the genocide. I think those would be my first points of action. And then after that, try to give people their human rights, I think. All right. So, nice job today, everyone, with this class. I know that it can be a little bit difficult in the moment of speaking to use hypotheticals, but this is something I've had people ask me before. When do you use the conditionals in real life? Are they something that's necessary to learn? And my response to that is that if you live in another country, like an English-speaking country, and if you live in an English-speaking country and you just interact with people in a very transactional way, like, hi, I want to buy this or something like that, you might not use it as much. Although if you order food, I'd like, right? That is using the word would, I would like. But when you have friends that speak English, it's very common to talk about unreal situations, your desires, what you would do. Oh, I can't come to your party, but if I had known about it earlier, I would go. So as soon as you're talking to people in a friendship way, expressing your opinions and ideas, it's very useful to use this tense, like conditional, the second conditional. So I would quit jobs. If I could go back, I would quit a lot of jobs earlier. Okay, yeah. I think like trusting that this is not for you. I feel the same about things in my life too. All right, so I'm going to upload this onto Spotify and YouTube. It always takes a while for it to download, but I'll post here when it's up. And have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good Saturday, and I hope everyone takes care. And I'll see you in the next one.